Here we go, AKAPAD. Welcome back to the 31 Days of Dread Extended. We paused for a little bit of December for a big chunk of November, but we're still extending the 31 Days of Dread from October. Annual podcast event where we go through 31 horror movies in 31 days, but there was so many great, relevant, talkable, discussable horror movies in 2024. I said we have to try and do them all. We have to keep going. We have to extend this. So today, it's the big hit. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. The big sequel. The big follow-up. People waited a long time for this movie, and when it finally arrived, it blew people away. A lot of people loved this movie. Except for me. Let's go. It's October. And it's time for the 31 Days of Dread. This is where you get one horror movie a day for the entire month of October. That's how much we love horror. That's how much we love Halloween on the Film Buff Podcast. And here's the crazy thing. This is the longest running horror event in all of podcasting. So get ready. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to scare our socks off. And yes, we're going to be grabbing some candy. Maybe some cereal. Let's go. AKAPAD, what is happening? Welcome back. Just when I thought we were done with the 31 Days of Dread. No, we've been recording. We've been doing a lot of things. If you're listening to this, it means that we're towards the end of the year, and the end of the year is my crazy time. I travel so much. Every single weekend is full. Weekends are mid-Friday to mid-Monday. And between the two, it's not like I'm slowing down or on family events, company events, doing stuff with the fiance, just all of it. Like, there's no slowdown even when it comes to work. So with all of that said, if you're here, if you're joining me, thank you so much. It has been a grind. This is one of the most productive years of the AKAPAD Film Buff Podcast. And so many of you are new. I have to say it again, but I am flattered and I am grateful for your support. Here we go. So everything we heard about Beetlejuice. All of these things. What is happening with this online world? I heard Beetlejuice, like the original, was not in this movie much. I heard that the bride that's in this movie wasn't quite interesting. I heard that William Dafoe was not necessary in this movie. All of these things. What you heard, what you didn't hear, is that the sequel was unnecessary, which is what we hear so much of when it comes to Gladiator 2. Gladiator 2, the only criticism that people could position against that movie was it a necessary sequel. I don't know. Is Beetlejuice Beetlejuice a necessary sequel? Both of them are like 40 years past the original. Like, what are we actually doing here? I think I made the mistake of watching the original and just having the best possible experience as a viewer, as an audience member with the original. By this I mean the movie was new again. I did Beetlejuice a couple years ago, and I believe I had the same reaction where some of the lines, some of the humor, some of the quips, some of the beats of the movie, the way how it's so perfectly written, and it just connects. Everything connects, and it just builds on top of one another. Common criticism for Beetlejuice is the wedding at the end. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't. It doesn't if you follow Beetlejuice in that movie with what he needs to do, what he is trying to do, and why he is dangerous. I heard when it comes to Beetlejuice that, we see the origin of Beetlejuice and all of this stuff, and all these things are there, and it's all great, and we get this amazing claymation sequence where we learn about the fate of the father, and this movie turns into this odd legacy movie, and that's where I got turned off. All the supernatural stuff is great. All the references are great. The way this movie is shot, this way this movie is performed. I thought Michael Keaton didn't quite have the flow, just the energy that we saw in that first one, but like whatever, not too much of a big deal. I think a lot of the characters are not as lovable, and you don't cherish them as much as you did with the original. Watching the original and getting involved with this movie may not be the best. So between my coverage of Beetlejuice, just so you guys know, for YouTube and the podcast, I did some decent deep dives, and I thought I brought some attention to a lot of elements of the Beetlejuice arc as a franchise that people forgot about. Meaning, Universal Studios, there was a Beetlejuice live musical play, interacted with the audience. These are the things people loved about the park. That production ran for, I believe, 9 years. It kept the franchise alive. The Beetlejuice cartoon, years after the release of the original movie, kept that franchise alive. And then what happens, it disappears for a little bit. But the nostalgia and the people kind of like, they keep clawing at it. They keep commenting the same way that they comment about, will Back to the Future get a sequel? People were clamoring for that forever, and they got it. Same thing with Indiana Jones. You get it, and guess what? You don't really quite like it. Beetlejuice, on the other hand, has a chunk of people this movie appealed to. So much so, this was a $100 million movie. It seems like it's made for a lot more, but the box office is $450 million. And no one calls this the absolute return and comeback of Tim Burton. Tim Burton got a big comeback with Netflix and Wednesday. Tim Burton's other movies, if we go through his later filmography, I put a lot of his other films over this, including his Dumbo. People unfairly, they inaccurately go after Tim Burton. I don't really know why, but I would put, here's the movies: Dark Shadows, Frankenweenie, Big Eyes, Miss Peregrine's Home of Particular Children, Dumbo. I would put all of those movies above this movie. Dare I say, but Beetlejuice might be his worst movie. Now, he's in a different class of his own. He's in the class of one of the best of all time. Consistently, I would say his rollouts. He's got those iconic movies, just like someone like Steven Spielberg. He's got iconic movies. He's got movies that people want sequels of it, or they want more of, like Nightmare Before Christmas, right? People want more of the Batman 1989 universe. We saw that with the love and anticipation, and the only good thing that people say about the Flash movie is Michael Keaton's Dark Knight in that movie, which is the Tim Burton universe. So we get these things. I mean, AKAPAD, when it comes to Burton, I love his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I love his Planet of the Apes. In my eyes, he doesn't have a bad movie. He really doesn't. I just think this one, for me, because I did such a deep dive and I caught up on the cartoon for this podcast, I caught up on what that stage production was. On my YouTube, I uploaded the final production of that. I think it was good, like Graveyard Retrieve or I forget the name, but it was just like the Graveyard something. Getting a little bit of a brain fart here. But the wild thing, my AKAPADers, is I'm watching this movie. The father's dead. The father's death is a part of this movie. And you say to yourself, you look at Winona Ryder, who doesn't quite look the best. We have Catherine O'Hara, doesn't quite look her best. These people are old. We have Jenna Ortega, the absolute it girl next to Sydney Sweeney. this movie could have moved on from the original cast or recast the original cast. I believe it would have been fine. Jenna Ortega is a screen girl. She just appears on screen and you just look at her, you pay attention. William Dafoe, this generation's character actor. I mean, he never touches anything that isn't good or that he's not spectacular in. This movie fires on all cylinders. It really does. This movie is well thought out, it's well designed, but the story itself did not capture me. And I'm just being honest with you, my AKAPADers. Beetlejuice. It's a okay follow up. Maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind. Maybe a little bit of time has to pass. I say this a lot about movies that I'm not crazy for initially. I might have to wait a little bit to see this movie. The hype and the excitement of it back in October is still in the air. So, AK Powder, sorry to say, I cannot just watch the original, watch the cartoon, and track down that stage production on YouTube on the AKAPAD YouTube channel. Love you guys. Rock and roll. AKA Powders, thank you for joining me for another episode of the 31 Days of Dread. We have been dedicated to horror for a long time on this feed, on this podcast. If you guys want to know more about everything we do here, go to akapad.com. From there, you can navigate to the 31 Days of Dread. We have a dedicated landing page that goes through all the years of the 31 Days of Dread, and we also have a directory that jumps you to any movie that we've done. So you can just look up the movie by name, you can go to the directory, it's all alphabetical, and you can just explore. And that's the intent, and that's why we're so into the 31 Days of Dread, because no one's done this. No one has put this much time, this much thought and effort into American horror and international horror, and we love it. Horror is the future of American cinema. Horror right now is holding up American cinema, and I'm so thankful for it. So I'm hoping that you can extend yourself, explore, and continue the conversation. akapad.com. Thanks, guys.